Hare Krishna, my dear devotees. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the live studios in the Haven, which is located in Hythe, Southeast Kent, Southeast England, and just a stone's throw from the English Channel. We've set up an ashram here, and we're trying to promote the hearing of Srila Prabhupada's books. We're a little bit late today, so I'm going to start right up. We hope all of you are well and safe and happy. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Mahima Stotram by Srila Sanatana Goswami. One of the most beautiful glorifications of the Bhagavatam I've ever read. It goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Purāṇa Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Prabho Kali Dvandoditaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madhika Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Manistadagam Madbhagya Mad Anandanamostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Sadhu sadhuta dayin atini chochata kada hanamuncha gadachin mam premna ritkanta yukspura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we've reached chapter 21 of the third canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, conversation between Manu and Kardama. We're starting with text 15. This is Kardama, who has had a personal darshan of Lord Vishnu after thousands of years of meditation and spiritual practices. He's a real ascetic. So Kardama is speaking to the Lord. Therefore, desiring to marry a girl of like disposition, who may prove to be a veritable cow of plenty in my married life, to satisfy my lustful desire, I too have sought the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the source of everything. For you are like a desire tree. Purport. In spite of his condemning persons who approached the Lord for material advantages, Kardama Muni expressed his material inability and desire before the Lord by saying, "Although I know that nothing material should be asked from you, I nevertheless desire to marry a girl of like disposition." The phrase "like disposition" is very significant. Formerly, boys and girls of similar dispositions were married. The similar natures of the boy and girl were united in order to make them happy. Not more than 25 years ago, and perhaps it is still current, parents in India used to consult the horoscope of the boy and girl to see whether there would be factual union in their psychological conditions. These considerations are very important. Nowadays, marriage takes place without such consultation, and therefore, soon after the marriage, there is divorce and separation. Formerly, husband and wife used to live together peacefully throughout their whole lives, but nowadays it is a very difficult task. Kardama Muni wanted to have a wife of like disposition because a wife is necessary to assist in spiritual and material advancement. It is said that a wife yields the fulfillment of all desires in religion, economic development, and sense gratification. If one has a nice wife, he is to be considered a most fortunate man. In astrology, a man is considered fortunate who has great wealth, very good sons, or a very good wife. Of these three, one who has a very good wife is considered the most fortunate. Before marrying, one should select a wife of like disposition and not be enamored with so-called beauty or other attractive features for sense gratification. In the Bhagavatam, 12th Canto, it is said that in the Kali Yuga, marriage will be based upon consideration of sex life. As soon as there is deficiency in sex life, the question of divorce will arise. Kardama Muni could have asked his benediction from Uma, for it is recommended in the scriptures that if anyone wants a good wife, he should worship Uma. But he preferred to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead because it is recommended in the Bhagavatam that everyone, whether he is full of desires, has no desire, or desires liberation, should worship the Supreme Lord. Of these three classes of men, one tries to be happy by fulfillment of material desires, another wants to be happy by becoming one with the Supreme, and another, the perfect man, is a devotee. He does not want anything in return from the personality of Godhead. He only wants to render transcendental, loving service. In any case, everyone should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for He will fulfill everyone's desire. The advantage of worshiping the Supreme Person is that even if one has desires for material enjoyment, if he worships Krishna, he will gradually become a pure devotee and have no more material hankering. Text 16. O my Lord, you are the master and leader of all living entities. Under your direction, all conditioned souls, as if bound by a rope, are constantly engaged in satisfying their desires. Following them, O embodiment of religion, I also bear oblations for you, who are eternal time. Purport. In the Canto Upanishad, it is stated that the Supreme Lord is the leader of all living entities. He is their sustainer and the awarder of all their necessities and desires. No living entity is independent. All are dependent on the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the Vedic instruction is that one should enjoy life under the direction of the Supreme Leader, the Personality of Godhead. Vedic literatures like Ishopanishad direct that since everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should not encroach upon another's property, but should enjoy one's individual allotment. The best program for every living entity is to take direction from the Supreme Lord and enjoy material or spiritual life. A question may be raised. Since Kardama Muni was advanced in spiritual life, why then did he not ask the Lord for liberation? Why did he want to enjoy material life, in spite of his personally seeing and experiencing the Supreme Lord? The answer is that not everyone is competent to be liberated from material bondage. It is everyone's duty, therefore, to enjoy according to his present position, but under the direction of the Lord or the Vedas. The Vedas are considered to be the direct words of the Lord. The Lord gives us the opportunity to enjoy material life as we want, and at the same time, He gives directions for the modes and processes of abiding by the Vedas, so that gradually one may be elevated to liberation from material bondage. The conditioned souls who have come to the material world to fulfill their desires, to lord it over material nature, are bound by the laws of nature. The best course is to abide by the Vedic rules. That will help one to be gradually elevated to liberation. Kardama Muni addresses the Lord as Shukla, which means the leader of religion. One who is pious should follow the rules of religion, for such rules are prescribed by the Lord Himself. No one can manufacture or concoct a religion. Religion refers to the injunctions or laws of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that religion means to surrender unto Him. Therefore, one should follow the Vedic regulations and surrender unto the Supreme Lord, because that is the ultimate goal of perfection in human life. One should live a life of piety, following the religious rules and regulations, marry and live peacefully for elevation to the higher status of spiritual realization. Text 17. However, persons who have given up stereotyped worldly affairs and the beastly followers of these affairs, and who have taken shelter of the umbrella of your lotus feet by drinking the intoxicating nectar of your qualities and activities in discussions with one another, can be freed from the primary necessities of the material body. Purport. After describing the necessity of married life, Kardama Muni asserts that marriage and other social affairs are stereotyped regulations for persons who are addicted to material sense enjoyment. The principles of animal life, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, are actually necessities of the body. But those who engage in transcendental Krishna consciousness, giving up all the stereotyped activities of this material world, are freed from social conventions. Conditioned souls are under the spell of material energy, or eternal time, past, present, and future. But as soon as one engages in Krishna consciousness, he transcends the limits of past and present and becomes situated in the eternal activities of the soul. One has to act in terms of the Vedic injunctions in order to enjoy material life. But those who have taken to the devotional service of the Lord are not afraid of the regulations of this material world. Such devotees do not care for the conventions of material activities. They boldly take to the shelter, which is like an umbrella against the sun of repeated birth and death. Constant transmigration of the soul from one body to another is the cause of suffering in material existence. This conditional life in material existence is called samsara. One may perform good work and take his birth in a very nice material condition, but the process under which birth and death take place, is like a terrible fire. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his prayer to the spiritual master, has described this. Samsara, or the repetition of birth and death, is compared to a forest fire. A forest fire takes place automatically, without anyone's endeavor, by the friction of dried wood, and no fire department or sympathetic person can extinguish it. The raging forest fire can be extinguished only when there is a constant downpour of water from a cloud. The cloud is compared to the mercy of the spiritual master. By the grace of the spiritual master, the cloud of the mercy of the personality of Godhead is brought in, and then only, when the rains of Krishna consciousness fall, can the fire of material existence be extinguished. This is also explained here. In order to find freedom from the stereotyped conditional life of material existence, one has to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, not in the manner in which the impersonalists indulge, but in devotional service, chanting and hearing of the activities of the Lord. Only then can one be freed from the actions and reactions of material existence. It is recommended here that one should give up the conditional life of this material world and the association of so-called civilized human beings who are simply following in a polished way the same stereotyped principles of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Chanting and hearing of the glories of the Lord is described here as Tvad Guna Vada Sidhu. Only by drinking the nectar of chanting and hearing the pastimes of the Lord can one forget the intoxication of material existence. Text 18. Your wheel, which has 3 naves, rotates around the axis of the imperishable Brahman. It has 13 spokes, 360 joints, 6 rims, and numberless leaves carved upon it. Though its revolution cuts short the lifespan of the entire creation, this wheel of tremendous velocity cannot touch the lifespan of the devotees of the Lord. Purport. The time factor cannot affect the span of life of the devotees. In Bhagavad Gita it is stated that a little execution of devotional service saves one from the greatest danger. The greatest danger is transmigration of the soul from one body to another, and only devotional service to the Lord can stop this process. It is stated in the Vedic literatures, Harim bina na mritim taranti. Without the mercy of the Lord, one cannot stop the cycle of birth and death. In Bhagavad Gita it is stated that only by understanding the transcendental nature of the Lord and His activities, His appearance and disappearance, can stop the cycle of death and go back to Him. The time factor is divided into many fractions of moments, hours, months, years, periods, seasons, and so on. All the divisions in this verse are determined according to the astronomical calculations of Vedic literature. There are 6 seasons called ritus, and there is the period of 4 months called Chaturmasya. 3 periods of 4 months complete 1 year. According to Vedic astronomical calculations, there are 13 months. The 13th month is called Adimas, or Malamas, and is added every 3rd year. The time factor, however, cannot touch the lifespan of the devotees. In another verse it is stated that when the sun rises and sets, it takes away the life of all living entities, but that it cannot take away the life of those who are engaged in devotional service. Time is compared here to a big wheel, which has 360 joints, 6 rims in the shape of seasons, and numberless leaves in the shape of moments. It rotates on the eternal existence, Brahman. Text 19. My dear Lord, you alone create the universe. My dear Lord, you alone create the universes. O Personality of Godhead, desiring to create these universes, you create them, maintain them, and again wind them up by your own energies, which are under the control of your second energy, called Yogamaya. Just as a spider creates a cobweb by its own energy, and again winds it up. Purport. In this verse, 2 important words nullify the impersonalist theory that everything is God. Here Kardama says, O Personality of Godhead, you are alone, but you have various energies. The example of the spider is very significant also. The spider is an individual living entity, and by its energy, it creates a cobweb and plays on it. And whenever it likes, it winds up the cobweb, thus ending the play. When the cobweb is manufactured by the saliva of the spider does not become impersonal. Similarly, the creation and manifestation of the material or spiritual energy does not render the creator impersonal. Here the very prayer suggests that God is sentient and can hear the prayers and fulfill the desires of the devotee. Therefore he is Satchidananda Vigraha, the form of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. Text 20. My dear Lord, although it is not your desire, you manifest this creation of gross and subtle elements just for our sensual satisfaction. Let your causeless mercy be upon us, for you have appeared before us in your eternal form, adored with a splendid wreath of tulasi leaves. Purport. It is clearly stated here that the material world is not created by the personal will of the Supreme Lord. It is created by his external energy, because the living entities want to enjoy it. This material world is not created for those who do not want to enjoy sense gratification, who constantly remain in transcendental loving service, and who are eternally Krishna conscious. For them, the spiritual world is eternally existing, and they enjoy there. Elsewhere in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it is stated that for those who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this material world is useless, because this material world is full of danger at every step. It is not meant for the devotees, but for living entities who want to lord it over the material energy at their own risk. Krishna is so kind that he allows the sense-enjoying living entities a separate world created by him to enjoy as they like. Yet at the same time, he appears in his personal form. The Lord unwillingly creates this material world, but he descends in his personal form, or sends one of his reliable sons, or a servant, or a reliable author, like Vyasadeva, to give instruction. This propaganda work goes on side by side with the creation to convince the misguided living entities who are rotting in this material world to come back to him and surrender unto him. Therefore, the last instruction of Bhagavad Gita is this: Give up all your manufactured engagements in the material world and just surrender unto me. I shall protect you from all sinful reactions. Text 21. I continuously offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet, of which it is worthy to take shelter, because you shower all benedictions on the insignificant. To give all living entities detachment from fruitive activity by realizing you have expanded these material worlds by your own energy. Purport. Everyone, therefore, whether he desires material enjoyment, liberation, or the transcendental loving service of the Lord, should engage himself, offering obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, because the Lord can award everyone his desired benediction. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord affirms, Yayatam mam prapadyante. Anyone who desires to be a successful enjoyer in this material world is awarded that benediction by the Lord. Anyone who wants to be liberated from the entanglement of this material world is given liberation by the Lord. And anyone who desires to constantly engage in his service in full Krishna consciousness is awarded that benediction by the Lord. For material enjoyment, he has many prescribed so-called, for material enjoyment, he has prescribed so many ritualistic sacrificial performances in the Vedas. And thus people may take advantage of those instructions and enjoy material life in higher planets or in a noble aristocratic family. These processes are mentioned in the Vedas, and one can take advantage of them. It is similar with those who want to be liberated from this material world. Unless one is disgusted with the enjoyment of this material world, he cannot aspire for liberation. Liberation is for one who is disgusted with material enjoyment. Vedanta Sutra says, therefore, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Those who have given up the attempt to be happy in this material world can inquire about the absolute truth. For those who want to know the absolute truth, the Vedanta Sutra is available, as is Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the actual explanation of Vedanta Sutra. Since Bhagavad Gita is also Vedanta Sutra, by understanding Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Vedanta Sutra, or Bhagavad Gita, one can obtain real knowledge. When one obtains real knowledge, he becomes theoretically one with the Supreme. And when he actually begins the service of Brahman, or Krishna consciousness, he is not only liberated, but situated in his spiritual life. Similarly, for those who want to lord it over material nature, there are so many departments of material enjoyment. Material knowledge and material science are available, and the Lord provides for persons who want to enjoy them. The conclusion is that one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead for any benediction. The word Kama Varsham is very significant, for it indicates that he satisfies the desires of anyone who approaches him. But one who sincerely loves Krishna and yet wants material enjoyment is in perplexity. Krishna, being very kind toward him, gives him an opportunity to engage in the transcendental loving to make?
First is from Sudevi Dasi.
Yes, Sudevi Dasi, thank you for updating your email. There was a typo. There were two S's instead of two E's. Hare Krishna.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna to you.
And from Audrey.
Yes, Audrey.
Radhe Radhe.
Hare Krishna.
And from Gopakanya.
Yes, Gopakanya.
Jai Maharaj, Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Cheers to all fortunate hearers.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
And from Rati Manjari.
Yes, Rati.
Jai Guru Maharaj, the shelter in the storm.
Haribo.
From Bhakta Christopher.
Yes, Bhakta Christopher.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. It is 12 noon here in Colorado. This is a great way to start the afternoon. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to His divine grace. Hare Krishna, thank you.
And from Nayon Kanti.
Nayon Kanti.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Anandamurti.
Yes, Anandamurti.
Dear Guru Maharaj and all assembled devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for today's readings of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam.
Hare Krishna.
And from Gauranga Gopal.
Yes, Gauranga Gopal. Haribo.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please forgive my absence from the daily readings in the last few weeks. We are busy in Wales with traveling Sankirtan retreat and Devamrita Swami visiting. Being busy, I still find time to catch up, but I feel very distracted and don't seem to hear much. I wondered how can I rekindle the flame of my interest for the topics of Bhāgavata.
Well, you have to keep hearing. We're in the material world. And as Krishna says in the Gita, the material modes are always competing for supremacy. Sometimes goodness overcomes passion and ignorance. Sometimes passion overcomes goodness and ignorance. Sometimes ignorance overcomes passion and... Anyway, you get the point. So the ups and downs that we go through are simply the fluctuations of the material energy. So there's only one way to get free from the fluctuations of material energy, and that's to fix our minds in devotional service. So as long as you do that, then the modes will change again, and your ability to relish will increase again. But as it says in the 31st verse, I believe it is, in the 9th chapter of the Gita, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that when one, loses taste for Krishna consciousness or does something that's not proper or whatever, there's normally a rectification, some kind of prayaschita or atonement that one must do. But in Krishna consciousness, the very activity that we're doing is the highest. So there's no need for atonement. You just have to get back into the hearing. And sometimes there are emergency services, sometimes not just the modes. Maybe there's some, like in Wales, there's an emergency service. You're building that wonderful center. You're having, Devamrita Maharaj, which I hope he comes and sees me, Hare Krishna, if he's listening. So sometimes emergency services cause us to maybe reduce our hearing or something. But we have to get it back and take it that Krishna is being merciful to us to make us feel separation from it. The feeling of separation from hearing and chanting is a very deep thing. It's a very positive thing. Hare Krishna.
This is from Hartindan.
Hartindan. Haribo.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Namaste, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for coming live and guiding us. Can you please guide how to get completely out from fear? It arises again and again. Even unwanted fear hits me hard. Please guide.
You must take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, and especially Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu flows naturally down to the most fallen. So however fallen you may think you are, Lord Chaitanya's mercy is more powerful. So you must take shelter there. So then what does it mean to take shelter? Prabhupada used to use the example that if you're walking down a road and all of a sudden there's a flash storm of hailstorm with big hail balls this big, enough to kill you if they hit you on the head. What is one to do? Get out your calculator and try to calculate out. No, you just run, because you know you're in a dangerous situation. So we're in the material world. So in order to be able to take shelter, you first of all have to realize that the material world is a dangerous place. And when you realize that the material world is a dangerous place, just like we're reading at Kardama Muni, he's taking shelter of Krishna, even though he has a little material desire. But still, he's very attached to the Lord, and we'll see how it unfolds. He becomes the father of God. You cannot become the father of God if you are a materialist. So his desire was transcendental, desire to fulfill the desire, to fulfill the senses of the Lord. So it's like that. We have to learn to take shelter, and we're in the material world, and it's a hellish place, and therefore, eventually, we must run to the shelter of the holy name of Krishna, and run to the shelter of hearing and chanting the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Lord Nityananda, and Radha Krishna, in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Fear is caused by our lack of knowing what is going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen, therefore we're fearful. But when you take shelter of Krishna, actually take shelter, not just make a show, but actually take shelter, then we become free from fear. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja ahang tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshayishami ma shujaha. Here Krishna says, don't worry, don't be fearful, don't be in anxiety. Just take shelter of me, mam ekam, and only me, and you will become you will become fearless, free from fear. Because you'll know that you're going back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Subbarao Rajagopal.
Yes, Subbarao.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thanks for your daily reading service. In the purport 3.21.21, Prabhupada writes that, quote, unless one is disgusted with the enjoyment of this material world, he cannot aspire for liberation. Liberation is for one who is disgusted with material enjoyment. End quote. And also, quote, but one who sincerely loves Krishna and yet wants material enjoyment is in perplexity. Krishna, being very kind toward him, gives him an opportunity to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, and so he gradually forgets the hallucination. Unquote. I am not sure whether I sincerely love Krishna more than self, family, and related things. Hopefully my hallucinations will get cured by listening to your daily readings and whatever little devotional service I practice. Thank you.
Well, there's no difference between hearing and chanting and devotional service. The hearing and chanting is in the category of pure devotional service. It's the most elevated devotional service you can do. So just keep hearing and chanting. We welcome you to stay in the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Hare Krishna.
From Rati Manjari.
Yes, Rati.
Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for another transcendental reading. As you may have noticed, I have been running around and catching bits and pieces of the daily readings, and still greatly benefiting. Tomorrow I am departing for Radha Desh, where His Holiness Kardama Swami Maharaj will conduct a large initiation ceremony of, I have been told, around 100 devotees. Some of my friends are being initiated as well, and we have been preparing for this in various ways. Please pray for all the new initiates, that they may become fixed up in their Krishna consciousness, and share it with many others. Thank you for considering my request.
Hare Krishna. We pray for this. We pray for this. Kardama is exemplary, an exemplary Vaishnava. He knows he doesn't have very much longer to live, and yet he is taking full advantage of the time he's got left. And yes, I pray that all the devotees taking shelter of him will follow his example. Hare Krishna.
From Gauranga Gopal.
Yes, Gauranga Gopal.
Thank you, Maharaj, for your answer. We are going to beg Devamrita Maharaj to visit you and join the daily readings, at least for one evening.
Thank you very much.
And from Anandamurti.
Yes, Anandamurti.
It is very encouraging that, quote, one who sincerely loves Krishna and yet wants material enjoyment is in perplexity. Krishna, being very kind toward him, gives him an opportunity to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, and so he gradually forgets the hallucination. Unquote. Yesterday, one Bhagavad Gita distributed at the lunch break. Hare Krishna.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your constant devotional service, regular and steady. We are all hearing about it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Gurudev.
Haribol. And thank all of you. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Samabeda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow night, same time, same place, same topic, as the story of Kardama Muni and Devahuti unfolds. And soon Kapila Dev will appear in the pages of the Bhagavatam and give us detailed and deep instructions about how to perform devotional service perfectly. Hare Krishna, see you tomorrow.